Hello everyone, welcome to my channel. Please subscribe and stay tuned by clicking the bell icon. Why we need Heartstopper Season 2 even more than we needed Season 1, coming out of the closet. The moment when LGBTQIA+ people decide they are ready to declare their sexuality or gender is honestly a strange practice. It's at once intensely personal, but also with a performative element, broadcast to other people as its core function. It's sometimes difficult to navigate this conflict between something that's very private, but that you also want to share with other people. In one form or another, all queer people deal with coming out at some point. For some, they never truly or fully come out of the closet to everyone around them. For others, it's the beginning of being loud and proud, and might even involve a YouTube video. For most others, it's something in between those extremes, such as my choice to keep my sexuality extremely private for many years, before spontaneously bringing a boyfriend over to dinner. There's no right or wrong way of coming out, but perhaps because of its ubiquity as a trope in entertainment, there is a perceived pressure, especially for young people, not only to come out but also in how you do it. Heartstopper Season 2 is one of the best explorations of this pressure, of the stress of coming out, that I've ever seen. The first season of Heartstopper managed to capture the pastel daydream glory of teen romance, all the sparkles and butterflies of having a crush, and as a result was a massive hit. Much of its success was from the gift it gave the LGBTQIA+ community in depicting an achingly sweet homosexual romance between its two main characters. British schoolboys Nick and Charlie spent their first season tentatively and gorgeously exploring their attraction to each other, flush-faced and beaming, constantly saying hi to each other with increasing intensity. While there is some bullying and homophobia in the gay romance, they are surrounded by supportive family and friends, and were allowed to live, at least partially, in a little queer love story bubble. Considering so many queer stories have traditionally revolved around the trauma of being LGBTQIA+, it was a welcome respite to sink into the warm and slightly saccharine bathtub of sweet and earnest romance and see young queer kids experience that joy. The season resolves with Nick coming out, in a gloriously touching scene, to his mother Olivia Colman, and Nick and Charlie becoming boyfriends. Season 2 doesn't lose its warmth and commitment to showing young queers navigating sexuality, gender, and relationships, but out of necessity, it does burst that hazy, dreamlike bubble in order to explore the consequences of coming out. Not only Nick and Charlie, but the entire friendship group in one way or another is pushed into a world where coming out, as gay and bi, as lesbians, as trans, as asexual, is not just a statement, but a transformative moment. We're given a taste of the sometimes negative reality of coming out, including bigotry, family strife, even mental health issues, and self-harm. For the majority of the season, we see Nick juggle his joy over dating Charlie, and his mixture of desire and trepidation over coming out to the rest of his friends and family. As opposed to the almost fairy tale moment of acceptance and love when he came out to his mom, we're shown that coming out isn't realistically a grand one-off affair, and that it changes in tone and timbre depending on who he is coming out to. We have heartwarming moments where he tells his old school friend Imogen or his rugby team, juxtaposed with disappointing reactions from his absentee father or outright homophobia from his brother. We're given conversations about the bullying and lack of acceptance that Charlie and Elle both faced after they came out, which was only alluded to in the previous season. We're given windows into the difficulty they experienced and, in Charlie's case, the trauma he still holds after being forcibly outed and harassed about it. There's a plot with Tara and Darcy, whose relationship wasn't given much nuance in the first season, where Darcy admits that she hasn't come out, and probably never will, and is kicked out of her house for looking too lesbian. We even have some of the teachers talking about the differences and difficulties in coming out when they were young. Unlike the first season, we're steeped in the consequences of coming out, rather than a misty storybook positivity. What we see is that all these characters fight against the expectations of coming out, internal and external, subtle and overt, and the sense of entitlement from other people. I loved Season 1 of Heartstopper, but I couldn't imagine a more opposite depiction of my time in high school, closeted and miserable. But Season 2 felt infinitely relatable to me because for much of my life, I was furious at the idea of being expected to come out. I was a flamboyant, twinkish lad who has been bullied for being gay since I was in primary school. People were so certain of my homosexuality that they would helpfully yell it from car windows at me. A well-meaning and gorgeous mother sat me down no less than 3 times to tell me how okay it was if I wanted to tell her that I was gay. It's not just the fact that I was confused by my bisexuality. I didn't know that was an option yet. It was the entitlement other people had to my personal life, the idea that I owed it to literally anybody else to express or confirm something that was only my business. This is a sentiment echoed by Nick at various points. I think there's this idea when you're not straight you need to tell all your friends and family immediately, like you owe it to them. But don't worry, the rose blush aura of wholesomeness comes back to Season 2. And that's in how everyone navigates these pressures and stresses. Charlie constantly tells Nick to move at his own pace, that he owes nobody anything. In one conversation, he tells Nick to pull back, noticing how stressed he is. We've been so obsessed with the idea of coming out, it's like we forgot why we wanted to do it in the first place, he says. It's hot for them. While this season doesn't hesitate to flirt with some darkness as a consequence of coming out, even literally replacing the usual animated sparks, butterflies and hearts in one episode with a sinister purple miasma to represent homophobia in action, it also takes the time to gorgeously show us why we come out in the first place. Beyond expectation, beyond pressure, we get to see the joy and freedom of not only finding your authentic self, but getting to live it proudly and loudly in public. There is one scene in Paris where Nick and Charlie, daunted by the seemingly mammoth task of coming out as a couple, see two queer men happily holding hands in public, and realize exactly what they want for themselves. We're shown the euphoria of freeing yourself from those pressures and expectations, as an artist tells the character Isaac about discovering their asexuality. It's a special feeling, and while it mightn't be as escapist as the bubble from the first season, it's somehow more joyful as a response. I'm bi, he's gay, and I used to be really stressed out about what you would say, but now I don't care anymore, proclaims Nick to his dad at a dinner, after being needled by his brother. I like who I am, I like my life. Heartstopper Season 2 isn't entirely an escapist romance fantasy like its first season, although it's still incredibly sweet and swoon-worthy, do not get me wrong, because it sits in the consequences of that first season of coming out of the closet. Some of those consequences are hard and painful and sad and upsettingly real, but they are shown, ultimately, to be worth it. This season shows the power and love and acceptance and, above all, joy that you can find by being your authentic self. It shows us why we still bother to come out. Patrick Lenton is a writer and author from Melbourne. He is the Arts and Culture Deputy Editor at The Conversation. If you like the video, don't forget to like, comment, and share.